All right, I just started recording because Bill, you were about to go on a whole diatribe.
If we're looking at AI in its application, and if we can use SME, so small medium enterprises, because SME covers a far larger range than just small business, then we're in the business of stewardship of SMEs, and this topic of the application of where AI fits in these businesses. I think that there's so many operational applications, but I've never even really, we've just started the application of AI.
If only you saw what I saw on Friday when young Isaac did a demo of what they are building inside embed with AI right now, the stewardship picture will become clearer.
Well, what would be good is that perhaps Gabe could explain that to me.
Can I ask you both a question just for my own benefit here? Like, can you define stewardship so I understand what you mean by that concept, what it means to you?
Stewardship, SMEs, small medium enterprises, evolve out of technicianship. So usually you're a good software engineer, or you're a good plumber, or an electrician, or whatever it is. So you build your business around your technicianship, and this is why SMEs are often very, about the craft and about the customer and about, the delivery of a product or service. That's where it comes out of. And they evolve to become reluctant stewards, right? So I would have said in the past, reluctant leaders. But stewardship covers if you look at how you make decisions in an SME, you're a vision custodian and an owner of a business. So you have a vision, and then you deploy your capital in service of that vision. So that's the one level in natural hierarchy. That's one level of decision making. Then you say to yourself, okay, now I have to build strategies to deploy that vision. That's a different hat. I'm an organizational leader. So I'm leading a system to actually deploy strategy in service of a vision. An operationalist, either an operational leader or a technician in that business, right, is about the delivery, about the keeping the trains on time, running the business, and running the current version of the business that has been established by the leaders. So stewardship is specifically about the non-operational part that is so important to decision making, that is usually very weak in small medium enterprises. As they evolve, it becomes weaker, not stronger. So consequently, what we're in the business of is helping people go to the gym and build the muscle at the owner-director level, vision custodian, vision capital level, and the capacity to lead strategy, lead culture, lead systemization. And those two areas are what we call stewardship.
So why is it weaker? Is it weaker because that founder generally would have a skill set in one of the other disciplines that you mentioned, they might be better on the tools, or...
Well, you've raised a very good point, because a role is a building block of succession thinking, and a role says you're accountable for something, and then you have certain skills to execute those accountabilities, and you have certain attributes. Now, if you think about what are the skills and attributes to be a great strategist? What are the skills and attributes to be a great organizational designer? What are the skills and attributes to be a great vision custodian, somebody that can elaborate a vision and communicate a vision? So all of these things are a long way from being a plumber or a software engineer. So you actually have to go on a journey to fundamentally build this capability. It doesn't come naturally to many. So what happens is, as the business grows, you're a reluctant leader, and so, you go and hire somebody, and you hire another person, you're building this business, and as that grows, it's hijacking your capacity to be proactive. So you go from being proactive at the very beginning of a business, highly proactive because you made something from nothing, to highly reactive And so as you become more reactive, your stewardship acumen drops.
Yeah, if I can have a crack at summarising stewardship, to talk about the reluctant leader or the reluctant steward situation, I look at it from the small medium business context that it's to help owners or the people in these businesses to make better decisions. In the story, make better decisions. Now, Bill referenced a reluctant leader. These are fantastic technicians that set out to solve a problem. They didn't necessarily set out to build a big business. They just were good at something, did it. More people wanted to pay them before they know it, they're growing. Then before they know it, they have employees. And now all of a sudden there's a group of people and there's a business. And they never trained how to lead. They never trained how to steward. They were a technician from the outset. And now they're thrust into a role that they've not built the muscle for, like Bill said. So how do we help those people make better decisions about this business in a role that they didn't originally train for? And how do we help them empower the rest of the people in the organisation to make really great decisions in the service of what it is that they want to achieve in the long run?
It's interesting. Like, I feel like I want to put a like almost like a note to come back to here, but I feel like there's this question around judgment and the role of judgment with AI that I think will become relevant for small business that I think we should explore. But like, just before we like move on from the stewardship piece, is there like, I mean, I know there's this guy Ben Horowitz who is one of the co-founders at A16Z. He talks about this CEO paradox where, and I'm probably going to bastardize this because it's only just popped into my head after a long time. It's been a long time since I read it, but he talks about like often the founder will become the bottleneck because they are just embedded in every decision that needs to be made inside the business, and then like the natural progression from there is to actually try to step back out and try to delegate to everyone. But then they step so far out that now they've lost control of like culture and decision making and that judgment piece that you spoke about. And so
that's why Bill keeps banging on about the concept of succession.
Right.
So the reason why succession thinking is a means by which you steward your business, it's because you actually scale your business by not stepping out, by handing over.
Yeah.
Now, they're very different terms. Stepping out, even their whole, the way you do it, is you're doing this sort of thing. Whereas to hand over means to lean in and actually consciously hand over decision rights and more importantly, capability and competence and empowerment of your successor. So if you build any business on the idea that you have the succession of the succession, so that every person who becomes a leader says, my intention is to displace myself by others that are going to stand on my shoulders, as opposed to tenure-based leadership, which is to say, which you see a lot in the corporate world, where they say, my tenure, I'm the rock star.
Do as I say.
Do as I say. And then the person that comes after me, they don't have a fundamental interest in the success of their successor.
Yeah.
Whereas in founder-based businesses, it's the essential element of success beyond the founder.
Well, it's about constantly thinking about how do I build something that's set up for when I'm not here? How do I design something so that it is a really great place for the next person to come into?
It just for the sake of like anybody in the audience, like both of them that might be listening.
Well, you did well. So there's at least two.
At least two, I'm pretty sure.
Gabe and Bill.
Well, 4 people are going to listen to that one, so we should be good. But like, it's interesting because we talk about like not being in the business, and there's almost like a bit of your head that goes to like, oh yeah, when you're dead or retired, and it's like it's a pretty grim way of thinking about it, because like sometimes I like to go on holiday.
Yeah.
And it would be great if I could go on holiday and my business didn't fall in a pit, or sometimes I might be like watching my kids play football or at sports day or something like that. And again, it'd be great if like your whole business doesn't fall in a pit at that point. So there is some like nuance here to say that it's not that like, this is my understanding of it anyway, like the succession thinking isn't just about like how do you get out of your business eventually. It's more about like how do you stop your business becoming like a yoke around your neck, where the only way that it moves is when you move it.
That's absolutely correct. But it's actually even more pointed than that. It's navigate to do what you want to do and make sure the business is delivering to your life and you are not a victim to your business.
Yeah.
Right? That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
I did this presentation last week to the E32 network, and I asked the room the question: what happens if you jump on a cruise boat tomorrow for 3 months? What happens to your business? Silence. Net result was virtually none of the businesses would have survived if that happened, because of how it was set up. And then I went on to say, we interview hundreds of founders. We have tons of conversations. We always start with the question, what do you want? What do you want your life to look like? That needs to be clear to have a chance at having a business that can potentially deliver on that. Now, we get a range of answers, but the answers always will fall into one of either two net results for the business. I want my business to be as valuable as possible and as sellable as possible, so that if a good opportunity comes along, I can get the most out of that, number one. Or I want my business to be as profitable as possible and as independent of me as possible, so that I can still own it, but it is not the noose around my neck. I get to live a life.
How much of that do you think is like extrinsically motivated? You know, I've been victim to this myself. Like when I've run a business, I've thought the things I want out of it are what gets projected onto me extrinsically. These are the things I should aspire to achieve with my business. Certain amount of profit, certain amount of, size growth, certain headcount, like all of those things I think get like projected onto us to a degree. And like, I must admit, like I rarely spent the time to go like, what is important to me intrinsically?
That's why we ask that question.
Yeah.
That's why we spend hours and hours doing the work of what do you want? What do you want your life to look like 5 years from now? Paint that picture in great detail. Because once founders sit with that, things come out. Oh, I want to be sailing the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
I'm still in Perth, but I'm coaching the local, girls soccer team. Or I'm active as a philanthropist. Or I'm still in the business. I'm working hard. Whatever it is, like if that becomes clear, like genuinely what will make me happy in a number of years' time, then you only have to ask the question, well, is what the business is doing currently, is it going to give me that or not? Mm-hmm. Often when we meet founders, the strategy is grow, grow, grow. And it's like, oh, why? Why are you growing? Well, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
And all that. This is the stuff that's projected on us.
Yeah.
Now, if you've got really clear that actually in 5 years' time I want to be coaching this soccer team and I want to be sailing and I want to be working sometime, then for a business to grow 3x, 4x in 2 years' time, you are taking on a lot of risk. You're taking on a lot of overheads. It takes a lot of hours by a lot of people for a business to do that. Is that going to give you this? Almost all the time. The answer is no.
Hypothetical. Yeah.
So then the only thing that remains is a decision. Make a good decision. Mm-hmm. How important is it for you to get this thing that you just said what you wanted? Now you've got a chance to design a business that will deliver that. Or you can choose to not do anything and get dragged along by the status quo, and you're almost certain to not get what you want.
Mm-hmm. And to add to that, we usually connect with businesses where the founders or the owners, owner leaders have got to a place where they're either stuck, overwhelmed, lonely, or their business is powering along and they're in a good place, but they're still in a form of being stuck. So the thing that I think is interesting is if we actually build businesses differently, we don't have to end up there. And so the part...
Enter the opportunity with AI.
Here's the point before we get to that, is just this concept of we help people build businesses on intrinsic motivation, which begins with the founders and the owners. So if they're building a business on extrinsic motivators, that is only going to end up bad. That it has to be, right? Because anybody that builds their life on an external locus of control, I think that there's a lot written about this. That's not a good. If you're actually making decisions based upon what other people want for you, I don't think that's a good place to be. So what we've got to do is build the entire business on intrinsic motivation, beginning with the founder or the owners. So helping people get clear about what they want is actually, the foundation. And the thing that's really bizarre about this is we've gone in to so many businesses that have already got, coaches and other strategists helping them and all the rest of it, and they do not have a vision as the owner's vision or a manifesto to guide the formation of strategy. So guess what the guidance is for the formation of strategy? Extrinsic motivation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so then you get these bizarre strategies where people they're putting in strategies to grow, and guess who they're growing around? The founder. So the founder who wants discretionary time back is actually getting gobbled up by the business because they're making more money, but they're losing time, which is making them angry. So they're getting more money and more anger. Makes no sense.
So how do you navigate that transition back though? Like if you're like, you're in the middle of this business, you're feeling angry, you've hit this point of realization that our entire strategy is based on extrinsic motivation. How do you navigate how do you pathfind back to that intrinsic motivation when the business is just it's running, it's busy, it's hectic, it's chaotic? How do you navigate that?
Do you want me to take that?
Yeah, you go first. Yeah, and I'll add.
My view on that is that you start with role clarity. Coincidentally, principle number 1 in Bill's book, but it's to understand that you have the role of the owner of the business, often the legal director of the business, but most importantly, the vision custodian. You are the person that has got rights over where the business goes because it's yours, right? So accept that you have those roles and understand the job to be done in those roles. Then next, answer the question, what do you want? And spend time on it. Don't fucking just jig it out of ChatGPT.
In which role are you to answer the question though?
Well, you have to be the owner first. It's your business. You have to ask yourself, what do I want?
Yes, but in
the
what
crafting
role?
of
It's the vision custodian role.
the crafting of that communication is the vision custodianship. So do the work of being really clear what you want for your life and for your family in the future, and find a way to articulate that in detail, and then check whether what the business is doing, is it likely to deliver that or not. If it is, great, you're doing awesome, keep going. Oftentimes it's not. Then you have a decision to make. You have to accept that this is now your decision and nobody else can make it for you. Will I create the environment where we can start designing the direction of this business to deliver what I want? Or am I just going to go along with the flow? If it is, no, I want this future for my life. Nobody else can bring that for me, so it's up to me. Then you have to decide to start adopting a way of thinking in the business, a way of behaving in the business, a way of collaborating in the business as a group of people that can craft a plan, a strategy that's pointed at where you want to go. Now, if you design your business from the outset to be set up for handover, and you design a strategy from the outset that's pointed at what you ultimately want, you have a shot at getting that. But unless you commit to do that thinking and do that work, you're almost guaranteed to not get it.
Yeah. Would it be fair to say as well that there's a bit of a head fuck here where if you're the guy you mentioned a few different roles there as being the legal director, the vision custodian, the decision maker, various things, but they're probably also the technician as well that Bill said earlier. And one of the things that pops to mind to me is, Hemingway's quote on writing, where he said that you must write drunk and edit sober. And the point is that it's just, it could be the same person, but it's two completely different mindsets. And the mindset of the vision custodian is not the mindset of the the technician on the tools. And like even like being in the same physical space, the same environment, the same uniform, like you need to get yourself out of that whole space to somewhere else that can be your vision. And I know you've like given us advice like this in the past, Bill, but
Yeah, well, I think that you've picked up on. So, what I talk about is the skills and attributes. Or we talk about skills and attributes are acumen, right? So, combine those two things. So, skills are, if I'm going to be a good vision custodian, I have to be able to have the skill to be able to imagine a future that's different to today, right? That's a skill I've got to build. Now, if I can't conceive of a future that's different to today, then it's going to be very difficult for me to build a vision. So that's a skill. So I'm accountable to craft a vision and nurture it. And now I need this skill. And then some of my attributes to be a great vision custodian are to be above the line, to be calm, creative, a designer, right? That more oriented. So you could call the designer bit a skill. But if you start getting into that space, don't use your laptop that day. Don't use your phone that day. Do it at the beach. Don't, so you have to actually ingest that role and then do it entirely differently to the other roles. So
I just want to come back to reinforce what Bill just said. There is a truth here that is unavoidable, but for the most part, we have the risk of sticking our heads in the sand as founders. And that is, you spoke about the trap. Often the owner and the vision custodian are also a technician. That's why they feel trapped. They are so busy with the operational demand of their business, and the operational demand of their business and all of the fires that they have to deal with and all the accountabilities that they have to deliver on is sucking 60 hours a week from them. And then Bill and Gabe comes along and go, well, if you want to be happy, figure out what you want. And then, design for succession. And they're like, yeah, where the fuck am I meant to find the other 20 hours to do this work that you just told me? And here is my belief about this. Suck it up. There is no way around it. It's only through it. If you're saying you want something and you're not getting it, and you are consumed by all this other stuff, so you don't get the time to do the work, you have a decision to make. How important is this to me? Nobody else is going to do it for you. Nobody else is going to do it for you. So you get to choose. You have the beautiful opportunity of choice. I want to change my state. I want to get to a point where my business is doing really well and it just doesn't need me. So I got the choice to be there or not be there. I got the choice to have more time, and I've got something that's valuable. Okay, well then, the only way is to make that commitment, set aside the time, find the time, and do the work. Go hard for 2 years on designing a business that's set up for succession, and the return on that time on the other side is exponential. But until you commit and do the work, it ain't going to happen. And we see this so many times where we meet an owner and they say, I totally see, this makes total sense, and yes, sounds fantastic, we're just too busy. No worries. A year later, 2 years later, we chat to them again. They're in the same position.
No, often worse.
Yes.
Because they've lost a year and they're in the same position.
and they're older and they're tired.
Yeah.
And just a little bit more angry.
Probably a little bit more.
and a little bit more impatient, and impatience is our enemy. And so it's like going to the stewardship gym, if somebody says to you, we all know that if we want to feel good, if we're doing our exercise, we're eating well, funnily enough, we feel good, right? And so, but it requires being proactive, and it requires being disciplined, right? But the good news for most owner leaders is they have displayed those characteristics in the past.
Yeah.
They have been proactive. Anybody that makes something from nothing, right, is very impressive, right? So they have definitely, and they've had to discipline themselves. So that's in the foundation of any business, those two characteristics existed. It's just that what happened was that the reactive nature, the more, we become, transaction junkies and just, we're just smacking them out. And the more we do that, it's actually fighting. We become unconscious to the fact that we've got to go back to the stewardship gym and reclaim our foundation entrepreneurial makeup, right? Because you don't want to lose your entrepreneurial mojo, because there's all sorts of other bad things that happen with becoming reactive, because it's the opposite of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is actually being far more creative and actually going head on in to say, oh yeah, we could innovate this and we could change this. And if you stop innovating your own business and you just become reactive and you just keep trains on time, you're actually potentially a dead company walking. Especially, and this might be a topic that you want to bring up now. There's things that change in the marketplace and the world. Lately, I've heard this term AI. You see, if for the businesses that actually say, I'm not going to remain curious, I'm going to keep the energy to bring this into the business. Of course, they're going to get left behind again. So this is where, if we don't set up the right stewardship, how are we going to take advantage of this?
Yeah.
So feels like that old paradigm of like you get so caught in working in the business that you don't get a chance to work on the business.
Well, here's something here's something that I want to share. There is an incredible sense of peace that comes into an owner's heart or an ownership team if there is a very detailed, very clear vision. Remember, the vision is just the answer to the question, what do you want? Okay, so if you have a lot of detail around what you want and therefore what your business needs to look like to give that, all of a sudden, even when the shit's hitting the fan and it's chaos and there's fires everywhere and you're overwhelmed, every next decision you try to make, you get to weigh up against, is it going there? Yes or no? Yes, okay, let's do it. No, why am I wasting time with this? Move on. So it gives you real peace that I know the detail of where I want to end up, and every next step I take is in that direction, rather than every next step I'm taking at the moment is the direction of growth, which is a direction set by the world or by society. And the reason why that causes fear is you don't actually know what that's going to give you at the other end, and you are not genuinely confident that what the result will be is actually what you want. So there is a constant state of uneasiness as you are humming along growing a business. And that is just fundamentally different in how we feel when we start making decisions under pressure as business owners. You should measure it against something that I know with great detail this will make me happy.
So just to take us down the AI route that Bill's teed up there for us as well, I think one of our non-consensus opinions that we've had on this podcast is that AI is actually good for small business. I think the general view out in the world is that it's a massively centralizing force, that there's going to be a couple of big companies that just gobble up the rest of the world, and that's the end of it, and we're all done, and AI is just going to be some big magic thing that exists and it rules over humanity for the rest of time. That's weirdly a common perception of AI. I think what it actually is it's just a really good productivity tool that can fill in a lot of gaps around something that we all try and use every day, hopefully, which is our intelligence. And we can have things that we don't know, we can have things that we can't do, we can have extra skills and acumen things that we want to develop. And I think it does a really good job of filling in those gaps and then helping us do more with the time that we've got. And so when I look at who really benefits from that sort of change, I don't think it's really a product that gets delivered to somebody that changes everything, but I think it's like a bolt-on to humans that you can give them that make them more productive. But the people that are gonna benefit from that need to be high agency, resource constrained, and used to just like having a crack at something new that's like a little bit unfamiliar. And that to me is like, well, that's like everybody that's ever started a small business, right? Like they're all like base entrepreneurial, like as you say, but like anybody that's made anything is like that wasn't there, and then you made it exist, and you responded to people in a market in a way that made it actually work and thrive to a point. Like that is amazing when people do that sort of stuff. And so the sort of people that I think are going to get a huge benefit from AI is just anybody with those three things, and particularly like, and we've talked with you about this a bunch, Gabe, around like the resource constraint. Is that if there's one thing that defines like a small business versus a big business, it's just if your next person that you hire costs you $100,000, a big business doesn't give a fuck. It's fine. We can always have one extra person for $100,000. It doesn't really matter. A small business, like that could just make or break the whole business, right? It's a very important decision. And so if you now take away this scaling factor, and instead of it being that every new bit of intelligence in the business comes in, $100,000 to $200,000 chunks, and now it can come in, 10 cents to $5 to $15,000 chunks, like that just changes the nature of like what that business can do and like how much output that it can get. So this is my belief, like quite a strongly held belief. I don't see it happen. So I could be, maybe I'm just an idiot. Maybe I'm a little bit early on the belief, but I don't know. What are you guys seeing like out there in the world of SMEs that tells us that's correct, incorrect? Like what's the deal? Because I'm curious. I'd love to help more SMEs with this, but
so where do I start with this? I think first, I don't know how this is going to shape out in the long run. It's just the rate of change is so fast that it is impossible to even try and draw a theoretical forecast line as to where we're going to end up. I don't know. So then when it comes to the implications of AI, I'll bring that horizon closer, like 2 years. Let's just say 2 years. So what I see is incredible opportunity for SMEs as follows. Most SMEs get by month. They make just enough money to cover all of the expenses, and they break even or they make a tiny little profit. So with the capacity that they have, they can output X amount of hours or X amount of products, and it costs them Y, and voila, there's their tiny little profit. Now, usually to try and create more profit, they try and find a way to increase the sales and then have some level of control over the overheads to widen that gap. But as you increase output, you need workforce to try and make good on the output. The opportunity right now is you can genuinely outsource quite a lot of time-intensive things in your business to a piece of technology right now that is far more efficient at doing it than humans ever will be. And even if you just start by saving yourself 5 hours a week by doing that, and it costs you virtually nothing in the big scheme of things because the unit cost of that technology is so low, you've just increased your ability to up your revenue a little bit because you've increased your capacity. More capacity, same overheads. A little bit more capacity, almost the same overheads. A little bit more capacity, again, almost the same overheads. If you adopt that mindset and try to win back 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, and just keep chipping away at that, before you know it, over 12 months, I see the real potential for SMEs to increase their revenue by 50% whilst maintaining the same overheads. Now, all of a sudden, your profit margin is, what's that, doubled or whatever. A significant increase in the profit that you're making. There's a real opportunity right now. It's a real opportunity for every SME to have a crack at. What do you got to lose? You're not adding overheads, so that you're not adding risk. You're just trying to boost your capacity whilst maintaining what you spend. But the question you had was, why is it not being done? Why is you don't see the adoption? Is that right?
Yeah, I just thought it would be. Like we will go and talk to small businesses, bigger businesses about AI, and Basically, I find people very like it's hard to get started on stuff. People will say, "Oh, yeah, I can really see that there's something here. I can see there's a big opportunity." They won't necessarily then get down and actually start building things and making changes to their businesses. And I have a few like thoughts about why it might be, but it's just useful to get it from the other side of the fence. So, like, where do we think?
But you go first.
Well, I'm 64, right? And
No,
I've seen.
I will
I
not
am
believe it.
64, and I need to tell my age because I've seen lots of technology waves, right? And one of the things that I realised as technology waves come through, the technology goes looking for the problem, right? I think what I'd prefer that we have conversations about is here's a problem, and then we use the technology that is inspired by AI to actually solve that problem. So if we flip it around, because if we just talk about this generic technology all the time, right? I don't think it's very engaging for your average person that we've already said, many of them are overwhelmed or, they don't have that much space. What we're trying to do is build a greater muscle in stewardship and in organisational leaders. So there is people that are doing the analysis of trends and saying, okay, how can I utilise that technology in my business? But I think the part that you guys could play is perhaps flip it around and say, okay, what are the genuine problems we can start to solve here? So if we kicked it off by talking about operational type problems like the critical customer flow. How can we improve CRMs, project delivery, all these sorts of things, nurturing our customers. That's the critical customer flow of operations. But then you could say, well, how can we improve decision making as stewards, right? So let's start with these questions, right, and go that way and just say, yes, there's this thing out there called AI, but let's not talk about, because I think that's being done to death. Everyone keeps talking about the technology, not the problems. So the problems, we can help you with problems, and let's start with the problems, and then once we start telling everybody about we solve this problem using this technology, then I think that will increase adoption.
Yeah.
It's more clarity.
I want to share, and this is the bit that we chatted about before we started recording, but I want to share about how I see AI and the problem in our world.
In stewardship.
In stewardship, for sure. But I think it's just worth just sharing why we think owners right now is struggling to potentially take advantage of what we think there's good opportunity here. I think a lot of SME owners are in the older generation, and so the rate at which this technology is evolving is so hard to keep up with, even for the young whippersnappers. So there is a great deal of uncertainty. I think there's a great lack of trust in the technology, because even GPT-5 still hallucinates and gives me wrong answers and all that sort of stuff. So I don't trust it that much. So imagine if this technology feels overwhelming, and then you have scenarios where you go, well, that's a weird answer, so trust is an issue. And then noise. There's so much noise. How do you know what to do? It's the same problem we're solving with stewardship. Hundreds of thousands of small, medium business owners want to be able to steward their business better, want to be able to make better decisions in their business so that they get what they want, but they don't have a way to, they don't know how. We have that way, and so we can help them. A lot of business owners probably should think about making better decisions around AI, but they just don't have a way. Like, who is going to show them how to do it? Who is going to give them something that's proven to work that they can just implement with confidence and trust?
This is interesting. This is an interesting thread to pull on, because like you were talking about like capacity earlier as like an essential component of diminishing marginal returns. Like the lack of capacity over time and the increasing cost of like adding another body into the business to achieve more. Most of these businesses tend to hit a natural point where they're just like, well, it's not worth it anymore. I can't justify the investment into that next marginal hire. because I'm not going to get the rate of return, or there might not be just enough work for that body to do because the form factor of that intelligence was always human sized. But what's interesting, I think, on the other side of like capacity is skill. And I think like part of the decision making problem with technology is always, I don't have the skill. I need to defer that part of judgment to someone who has skill and experience in these prior technology waves that you were talking about, Bill, because that's just how it's been in the past. This new technology emerges, I need to go talk to an expert because that technology came within its own operating system and I needed to learn this thing. But AI is like kind of unique in some way because it's just democratized intelligence. I can just access it. I can talk to it. I can learn from it. And like something Pete and I have talked about on the pod at Heap is like the real magic, seems to us, is that all of a sudden you can just talk to computers in a language that you both understand. And that in and of itself is really empowering. And I think it's like the skill piece is really valuable because like previously, you'd have to go and find that next marginal hire with a particular skill set that you don't have, but then you've also got to justify that there's enough need inside the organization for that skill. Otherwise, you just wouldn't hire it. You'd go out and find a contractor or you find a specialist, you pay per hour, but you can just do a lot more.
Can I just raise a point there, though, about skill? So we're talking about capacity and capability, right? So the capability part is the skill. But, we often talk about maximising trust, right? A healthy business, Amy Edmondson's model, you need high psychological safety and you need high accountability trust. So they're two different forms of trust, right? So I can trust you and you're a good guy, but I ask you to do something and you drop the ball every time. I'm not going to be happy in a business because that's not productivity. Right? So for us to get into what's called the learning zone, right, or we need to have both of those ticked. So Gabe spoke about trust. So we need to have that capability, the skill, but we have to trust it. And so I think Gabe's raised the biggest thing in business is that if you look at a lot of the research on teams, the thing that pisses people off most in teams is a team member that doesn't do their job. Right? That's the thing that gets them. So if somebody goes out and says, I'm going to utilize AI to solve this problem, and it fails the first time, right? So this is where people like you come in. I think that for people just to go and try and I think Gabe's example is a good one. I mean, I've had my own experiences with hallucination. I tried to use ChatGPT just to massage when I was writing my book. And I'd look at what came back and I'd go, it was extraordinary. I'd say, can you rewrite this in a form that it's grade 8, blah 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 blah, to this, and it would. But it would actually just change the context a bit or something like that. So this problem of trust, okay, how do we solve that for the SME owner, the owner leader that's flat chat? How do we
this is
solve
part of
that?
psychology. This is part of psychology though, because I still think we hold AI to a much higher standard than we would another human when it comes to error rates. Like a human can produce an error inside of a business, and they do all the time. And because we've hired that human, they exist within because we get to know them over time. But if we only had a conversation with a human, and we weren't happy with the output of that conversation, we just wouldn't talk to that human again.
But what problem? Yeah, but there's two things. There's trust and what problem are we solving? So if I come to you today and I'm an active owner of an SME, right? Where we have conversations about how it can be applied inside our product. We haven't utilised much in the context of how we run our business, but it's still, we've got technologists in our business. Most businesses don't. So there's still a big how. How do we empower them to bridge that gap.
So I want to jump on the trust thing and just talk about sort of like my experience here as well, because it's like to be critical of myself. Yeah, what I would say is I got kind of interested in this back in, I think it was like the Christmas of 2022, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. Like it feels like this might change some stuff, and I started going deeper on it, and then I sort of became almost like full time on it like a couple of years ago, and I'm probably at a point now where I think like, okay, I probably know a lot more about this than most people, and I've travelled to like remote locations to talk to people about this. I'm like, okay, then a lot of people in the world, but then I'll come back and I'll try and talk to somebody about it, and I'm like, I don't feel like I've got a way of like connecting with you at the moment here, and there is this trust problem, whereas like I've spent so long like on my own time with this sort of stuff and using it day in day out in my work that I can see so many different ways of how you use it, and I'm going to try and talk to somebody, and I'm like, you're kind of like, you're thinking about it wrong, you're using it wrong, you don't see this that I see, but I think I'm so far removed that I lack that sort of beginner's mind, as like Rick Rubin would put it, to say like, how do I help people
I want to share
connect to
something
this,
on
because this is so powerful, but
I want to
you're
share
going to get left
something on
behind.
this.
Yeah.
It comes down to a way to have enough trust to act. Okay. We have a way to give potential customers enough trust that if they follow our way, they're going to achieve good stewardship in their business, and that will lead to happiness, right? And we're able to build enough trust because we can show the track record. And then if they have enough trust to act and take the first step, then at a high percentage rate of success, we want to be able to help them make a decision. That's another positive one, and another positive one, and then you build trust over time. Trust is not like this, you've got to build it over time.
Yeah.
Business owners do not have a way to have enough trust that AI is really going to make things better for them, and that's why they're not acting. I think that is the gap, that is the opportunity for people that are playing this space, for you guys that got the level of knowledge that you have, to go, how do I craft a way that will give small, medium business owners enough trust to have a go, and then just keep building on that consistently over time. Because I believe the capability of the technology is there to make transformational changes for SMEs in a positive direction.
Yeah.
But I've not discovered a clear way that gives me enough trust to move fast. We're figuring it out ourselves as we go.
And I got something to add to that. I'm building, if I was building my method of market entry for your business, well, assuming that your vision states that you want to empower small business with AI, right? So I'm assuming that's your vision.
Fair assumption.
Right? Then, and I'm talking to the vision custodians and the organisational leaders, the two of you. I would build two different forms of market engagement. One would be specifically for SME owners, and another one would be for SME organisational leaders. Now, this would be in the adapt ecosystem, right? Because I could tell you, if you built a product which was just or a market entry training module, right, which was AI utilization in SMEs for organizational leaders, and you went and deployed that, right, that would be the trigger, because you're talking to the people in the right role with the best acumen, who have the responsibility to capture all the inputs to set all the strategies, right? The deployment of AI, right, is a strategy based upon inputs of problems.
Yeah.
So the organizational leaders capture all the inputs from the business, all the inputs, and then they form the strategy.
Yeah. And it's important to state the technology of AI is a great solution to some problems, not all problems. A lot of people are trying to throw AI at all the problems now. It's not good for a lot of stuff. It's good for some stuff. So Bill's point of saying, well, what are the problems we're trying to solve? Let's get clear on that. Well, for which of these is AI the obvious answer? And then can I find a way to implement it that I have a high degree of trust in? I think it's important to state that when we first meet a business owner or an ownership team who wants to make things better in their business, you talked about difficulty to be able to connect when you have that conversation. We often have the same problem. We'll talk about stuff and use language and terminology, and they're like, what the fuck are you on about, right? But somehow we find a way where they go, wow, if you can pull this off for me, I want it. And somehow with the time I've spent with you, I've enough trust to take the first step. Let's go, let's see. Right? And then from there we have to keep, but it's not clear cut how it's going to play out. They're still taking a risk. They're taking a risk on us. So we have to figure out how do we get them to trust us enough to take the first step. And then every next step they take, they need to be able to trust that we will continue to deliver as best as we possibly can.
But the thing that is, I think, be interested in what you think, Gabe, but I have never, our first engagement is usually a deck of cards, roll cards. I have never gone to that meeting where the person hasn't identified that they have at least 4 out of 6 cards, right? So what
You'd
that
have
means,
to explain that a little bit better for those who are listening.
Okay, yes. So the roll cards, we play the card. So we say, are you the owner? And then it's a great question to ask straight away, because then your next question is, are you 100% owner? And they'll say, well, actually, no, I've got somebody in my business that has 10%. I said, okay, you're the owner. Does that person have 10%? Are they a capital call owner? And they go, what do you mean by that? I said, if the business needs money, do you go and ask them for 10% of the money? Oh, no. They only get the upside. Okay, so they're not a vision custodian. You're the vision custodian. Okay, who's the directors of the business? Sometimes people don't, they're not very conscious about that. But then you go, oh yeah, no, that's me. So you lay these cards out, right? And then we say organizational leader. Who sets the strategy? Me. Who leads the culture? Me. How many people are actually still reporting to you and you're making the decisions about their salary and da-da-da-da-da? Oh, that's me. And do you sell the product? Yes, I do. Do you deliver it? Yes, I do. So you've got technician roles. So you lay these cards out and they go, oh. So you've actually been able to have a rich conversation, and you've proven to them that the first principle of succession thinking, seek role clarity, is an essential element to really understand their world. Because what you've done is taken something that's highly complex and actually found the simplicity on the other side that they can identify with. You see the point?
Is it in a very short period of time you've demonstrated to them that you deeply understand their problem?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's where they start trusting you. They go, holy crap, you just helped me have a light bulb moment about what's going on in my life. How did you know what's going on in my life? Oh, that's right, because you've done it for 400 other owners. I guess you've got experience, you've got track record with this. You understand this problem better than I do. Maybe I should listen to you. Maybe I should try some of the things that you found that works well on that problem. And I think the same applies for AI. But I'd love to, if I may be so bold, to ask you a question, Pete, because it's rare. It's rare that
this is an option. This is all about you interviewing us.
No, I just figured it's rare that I get to sit in a room with somebody who's.
We can do this every couple of weeks if you want.
Well, how often are we going to get the chance to be next to somebody who's gone this deep into AI and spoken to the people you've spoken to and done the research and done the implementation to the level that you have. What do you see as a big challenge still in the adoption of AI? And what do you think is the real opportunity right now in the adoption of AI if we apply
For small business.
for small medium
SMEs,
business context?
For
Yeah.
small medium enterprises.
I think for SMEs, the opportunity that's in front of people is that you could save a lot of time. Like, I think the core problem that is the same across almost every SME is that you do not have enough time. You are always resource constrained, and there's always like a next thing that you could be doing that is going to cost you too much to implement, so you don't do it, or you don't have enough time, or you do it a bit half-assed. And I think there's a lot of tasks that we do, like almost anything in front of a computer could be done more quickly in a systemic way using AI. If you'd have, you may not have listened to last week's episode, but I assume you listened to most of them, but you might be a couple of weeks behind.
I'm a little bit behind
So-
for sure.
So, like one of the things we discussed last week, and I think this is a problem, is a thing that we've changed our mind on. So it's like I was always very much so the end game of a lot of this stuff is that the human moves out of the process and kind of like dictates the process, but doesn't necessarily do the work. And I've moved on that because that's just not been my experience. Is that the more I work with these tools, the more I actually do want to be somewhat involved in them. And I think it's because it's not, I don't want to be consumed by the work. I want the work to be able to happen without me. But I want to be able to be part of like directing that process. Otherwise it's too easy to just check out and have no idea what's going on. So particularly in like coding, something like, I want to dictate architecturally how we're going to build this thing, because otherwise decisions will be made that are contrary to mine. So it's like I work with it as though, to put it in your own language, as though I'm like the vision custodian. It's like I am, like I take this job and I break even the job then down into multiple different parts of the job, where it's like, well, I'm going to do the vision, I'm going to do the direction, I will do the testing, you can do the rest of the work, but I need to be intimately involved in it. So like I don't use AIs like almost at all, well, except for things I know it would know, for looking up like facts or for search or for stuff like that. I use them a lot as a person to talk to about things. So if I have an idea for something that I want to do, I will attempt to enter a dialogue with an AI where we'll go through several different steps to discuss what the solution might be. And like that's how we would come up with like ideas that are creative and more like solution orientated. It's how we come up with designs for architecture and stuff. Again, like I think a lot of people don't know to do that, because you're presented with like you use tools in the way they're presented, and what you get given is, here's ChatGPT, here's a small box in which you can write what's the immediate thing that's on your mind, and we will attempt to give you an immediate answer. And I think it's kind of like a limiting constraint for a lot of people, is that like, okay, well, I ask it when I want an answer. So I don't think it's necessarily like so a lot of people will talk about AI as say like, it's like a better Google search. Well, what's Google search? It's a small box in which you write an immediate question you have in a hope that you get an immediate answer in the form of a Google search. I don't think it's a massive surprise that we've drawn that analogy there. Whereas like I think if AI was something that you had to go for a walk with, we would use it completely differently. It turns out it's very good in that sort of situation. If you can go and walk and talk with the thing, better outputs.
I'm sort of, what's growing for me here is actually more a fascination with when we do the owner's vision, we do a process where you have a vision, then we do an integrated vision. We do it by stakeholder, right? So we do self, and then the customer and the economic engine. I'm sort of fascinated, right? But what's your vision, right, for the economic engine and the customer for your business? You see what I mean? If we flip it around and we actually ask you, well, this is what we want, it might give us a better idea of how we would shape because what you're saying is sort of very interesting stuff, but it's very academic. I'm not feeling like, okay, on Monday I want to deploy. Pete,
Yeah.
what's it look like?
Yeah.
So what I guess I'm getting at is perhaps, I didn't think I'd be doing BD.
Always be selling Bill.
Always.
I feel it was a 50-50.
No, it's just, when you're genuinely, right, in the other thing I think that why we're successful with the cards is they can see that we have a genuine give a shit for their problem. A genuine give a shit. It's not ambiguous, it's not academic, it's actually, they can feel it. There's some passion for it. Because I know that when I get into the problem, sometimes I scare people because I seem to give a shit about their problem more than they do sometimes. And that's a strange place to be. But I really do find the problem fascinating, right? Yeah. So what I'm be really fascinated about is just what, like if we, did the elaboration of your vision there and actually say, well, which part of this, because I think it would inform the product, service you're offering, and it just...
Yeah.
Just...
I think because I think there's an element of subjectivity here as well in terms of like what problem you're actually trying to solve. And like the bit I would add to Pete, I know you asked Pete the question, but the bit I would tack on to the end of Pete's answer is that like I think using AI requires a mindset shift in that it's not the same as previous generations of technology, which were based on providing very deterministic outcomes. AI is probabilistic. And so if you try to use it in a deterministic way, you're probably going to be disappointed with the output, but you probably also then expose yourself to error. And so like the way Pete described how he used it and the way I use it is very much in a kind of support capacity. It's like, how do I stress test an idea? How do I work through a concept and like build a roadmap that works with the way I work because it just understands the things I like to do. Those are not deterministic.
But error is good. That's how we learn.
I think so.
Don't be afraid of error.
Well, this is what I was going to say to you earlier about risk. Is like the thing that's always baffled me when Pete and I have had these conversations about like why small business don't embrace this more is like because you would think like, and I think as an entrepreneur, I have like a risk tolerance that like most people can't grok themselves, right? But you would think that like natural curiosity kicks in, that like that risk appetite kicks in. You're just like, oh, this is something new. I should get across this. But to Bill's point earlier, like we have a whole bunch of other interests. We might have investors. We have other partners. We're so lost in the doing in the business rather than the thinking about what we're building and our own motivations in that as well. It all gets a bit lost, I think. And again, it's like, do we just defer this to Pete and Andy?
Have you got anything in your life that you've been thinking about for a long time that you'd like to do but you haven't gotten to it yet?
I mean, is this a therapy session, Gabe?
Obviously, yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
We're on couches already, yeah.
AI is the same.
Yeah.
Succession is the same.
Yeah.
So many owners have thought about, I need success for my business, but I'll get to it. I'm just fucking too busy.
Yeah.
I really should do something about this, but I don't really know where to start. Eventually I'll get to it. Before you know it, they have 6 months. I want to be out. It's too late to start playing. AI is much the same. Like everybody's going, oh, I really should get across this. I really should.
Yeah.
But getting put off because there's no clear way to take a step with enough trust to get an outcome that I want.
Yeah. So, but Bill also made this point. It's like, what is AI? Like,
I do want to just take on Bill's point though, because he's correct. Like my answer is very academic, right? And I think what you're realizing is this is an area where we're trying to figure this out at the moment. It's like I realize that I've gone like all the way over here, and to connect with these people, I need to find my way back. If you know what I mean, to say like, what is it? And like so before we started recording the podcast, one of the things I was talking to you about was like, all right, I'm going to do some like test workshops in the next month, and like one of the things that I want to do is teach people how to create software with AI. Not because I think that everybody should be creating their software with AI, but 80% of the people in the world don't think they can. And I think if you can show somebody that here's a tool that can take a skill that you don't have, and that in half an hour I can get you to a point where you now have that skill, it's a moment for you. Like, and this was a big thing for me, was to say like, oh, here's a tool where I can now go into like a space that I have no skill, I have no confidence in, and I can use this support tool to effectively give myself that skill.
Can I just use some succession thinking on
Yes,
it?
please.
Right. I think you're. I have in this conversation started thinking about strategies for your business based upon what I'm constructing as your vision. I think you would be. We come at a business in a pincer fashion, right? We're learning on the coalface, right? Don't know anything.
Yeah.
Learning. But we come from the owner and vision custodian to the strategist, right? Because these people are telling this what to do. So what I'm you've just elaborated a strategy, right? And I think, right, that I could elaborate a strategy that might get you somewhere faster, right? Because in what you just elaborated, you didn't tell me which roles, which people, which market segment, who's in the room, right? Because I'll tell you now, you could just spin your wheels. I mean, I'm 11 years into succession thinking. We swam up a waterfall, right? And it was Niagara. Why? Because we had to change mindset, right? You can't. Have you heard of the inference ladder?
No.
It was.
Inference
I found
ladder.
it at an American university, Harvard, I think. But the inference ladder is basically that what we tend to do as human beings is that we get a bit of data, right? And then we can often, make inferences and assumptions, and then form judgments. And then what we can do is we can then, instead of going back and really being objective about data, we then use selective data. And we go on this, So I tend to think that if you go right back and come at it from the left-hand side and said, okay, who is it that I need to engage to have the conversation of the mindset challenge? You see that question? Because you put a whole bunch of people from SMEs in a room. Oh, that's cool. It's at the beginning of a depth. Do you know what I noticed? Is because our concept is attractive, socially attractive and everything, it became a cool school. There's a lot of people wanting to hang out at the cool school. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not effecting what we want. We're not delivering our vision if we just hang out and talk about it, So I just think there's an opportunity here for you to actually say, well, okay, what would our strategy of engagement be to make sure we're talking to the right people about the right thing, so that we can actually progress this? Because I don't think, I would challenge, right, that what you're suggesting, it's cool, but I don't know if the people I talk to are going to go, oh, cool, yeah, I'll sign up to do that. You know what I mean? I don't think that they would necessarily, some will, but a lot wouldn't.
I wonder if, let me give you an example, make this practical. Bill's got a Google Doc somewhere that is his vision. It's multiple pages long, in great detail across all of the stakeholders. And that's what he wants. Got nothing to do with me. It's just what Bill wants. Right now, he can go and find it and say, here, That's what I want.
Soon to be loaded to our platform in our technology. But yeah.
I have a similar document.
Mhm.
It's Gabe's vision. This is what I want in great detail. It's across a couple of pages. Right? I could go and pull it up on my phone. I could show you. So here, this is what I want. And the reason why I have that and why Bill has that is because we spent hours on it. Park the world, grab a glass of wine, start writing. What do I want? What do I want? Why do I want this? Do that exploration, do the thinking. It's really detailed. So I can go back and reference it even when I get murky. What did I say back there? Oh, that's right. Yeah. Sweet. What we then did is we said, well, if we put these two things together, what does that mean for adapt?
Mm.
What does adapt need to do for us to get what we want? And there is a document that I can pull up right now and show you there with great details across a couple of pages. That's what we want adapt to do. Now that means every next time when I get invited to go and be interviewed on a wicked ass podcast, I get to go, okay, this is going to be time out of my day. Should I, shouldn't I? Because there's a ton of other things I need to do. I'm a busy business owner, I've got operationalist, I don't know, why should I do it? And I can go, let me have a look on my letter. Oh yeah, it's going to help me do that. Sweet ass, let's do it. Or not. So it helps me make better decisions. And when I start to think about strategies, I get to measure my execution strategies, my go-to-market strategies against a great deal of detail because I did that up front.
Formed with the other organisational leaders, so all the organisational leaders are aligned on the strategies that are formed, and they're always delivering to the vision.
And so I would love to, and maybe you have it already, and if you do, I'd love to read it, but it would be incredibly powerful if Andy had this is Andy's vision, Pete had, this is Pete's vision.
Have you got an instance of
this is the other stuff vision.
Sorry.
No, I don't think we do.
Oh, well, yeah, because you put it in our new tech.
So we do have a document that outlines our vision, like together, I think. Not necessarily fully separate things. And I wouldn't say it's something that we... I can't even think of the last time we pulled that up together.
Yeah, not for ages.
It's quite a while.
Well,
It's
here's the other
fascinating.
thing.
It's a fascinating exercise for what you learn about yourself and what you want, and how you get really clear on the alignment here. But again, it becomes a working asset in your decision making. I read the Vision for Adapt to my navigation team, my leadership team, every month. Bill and I go through that document every quarter when we meet.
Yep.
And we do that because we keep checking, is this still what we want?
And we had to go through a big revision recently because guess what? Our vision for the economic engine and the customer was not laser-like enough. So we had to tighten it up. So you see so the other thing is that we actually have an entire way of writing an owner's vision, which is a business manifesto. It's not a couple of bullshit, sentences. It's a full manifesto that says what you want for all your stakeholders of your business, right? And I think that's when you do it at that level, and we say specifically, what do you want for yourself?
Yeah.
What do you want for your the customer, and what do you want for society, the community, the environment? What do you want for? And so we build this document out, which is really, really rich, because you put it there and assuming you can integrate, because it's actually also another place where founder non-alignment or owner non-alignment is actually a company killer, right? And that's another thing we've observed, is that you're going into a business marriage, and in a lot of them end up in business divorce, and ugly ones, right? So they're value destruction exercise. So what we're trying to do is mitigate that risk. Not saying that's your issue. I'm just saying that's, alignment is an essential element of great decision making, right? So anyway, we moved off.
Well, look, and I think as with all stuff, that doesn't come for free. As you said, you guys are still, this is like effectively what you sell, but you still have to do it every month and every quarter to come together for that. But that is a
but it's a mindset. We talked about mindset, and I think sorry, but I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just didn't want to miss the opportunity.
Carry on, please do.
I think
There's 4 people here. You have to jump in.
if there's if if there's one thing I'd love to resonate through time from this chat one day, maybe it's this idea of mindset. Mindset. Make a decision about what you want, and then modify your mindset so you're likely potentially to get there. So for us, we have a mindset of constantly checking in on, is this still what am I still sure about what I want? And then am I taking steps in that direction? And if I have that mindset and I check myself on that constantly, then I start to make better decisions and proactive decisions in the pursuit of designing something that can function without me. But unless I adopt that mindset, I'll get pulled along with the mayhem or the wave of my business or my co-owner or all sorts of stuff.
So, Gabe, when things are shit house, terrible, everything's going wrong, and then, the family's got challenges as well because somebody's got crook and da-da-da-da-da, does your vision help?
Yeah. Here's why. I said before about peace and better decision making. Right? I dug deep and said, what's going to make Gabe happy? And blah, there it is. Let's go with my vision. That's what will make me happy. So now when everything is fucking chaos and work's stressful and the family is sick and my world feels like it's crumbling a little bit and I'm overwhelmed or whatever, I've still got to make a decision about what actions I'm going to take that day. And then if I go, all right, well, I know that's what I want, so I'm just going to take a small step today in that direction. I have peace about it, and I have peace that if it all goes to shit, at least I will put my hand on my pillow and go, I had a crack. I had a crack at getting what I wanted. Didn't kind of work out, but at least I tried. At least I was proactive about trying. It just gives me direction, and because I have that really clear direction, I have peace. I'm not wondering about where I want to be. I know, and I know that I'm making decisions in that direction, so I don't have this fear of, am I fucking off in the wrong direction? And because I have that clarity, I feel like I'm making better decisions. And because I know that I know exactly what Bill wants for his life, he knows exactly what I want for my life, and we've put that together, I have confidence that if I make a decision in the direction of that vision, I'm likely to make him happy as well, not piss him off. And that also gives me peace.
The alignment that we've got in the last 12 months is the best alignment we've had in the history of the company. That I feel that, when I mean alignment, I mean across the business and with our partners and everything, because I feel that this is the thing about long-termism, is it's cumulative. What you've done before, you build on. I think that if you're in a reactionary state, you don't build on the past. You just react. So that's so I feel that in the tough times of the last 11 years, I started to adapt when I was 53, and my purpose is genuinely to build this SME economy, which I think is fundamental to great society. So my motivation, if I'm low and I'm feeling, and there's been many times where I said, is this even a thing, or we're going to make it, or what's the, and I, two things kept me going. One was three things kept me going. What we're doing is good. It's something that is very, very fulfilling. Two, the customers that we have on board, we've delivered. We've got great stories of delivery, and I think the third thing is just this massive knowing that the problem it's a massive problem. There's a lot of people with the problem, right? And the problem is so prevalent in every one of those businesses. You know what I mean? So it means the underserved need is enormous. So that's what those things keep us going. But the vision right? And knowing that we are at this point of great alignment is very satisfying, you know. Whereas, because to deliver to what we call it return on vision thinking, as opposed to return on investment thinking, return on vision is a superset of ROI because it says, what do you want in the world, not how much money are you going to make. If you say making money is the only criteria, that's fine, that's your vision. But it often means that are you really caring for the customer, or could you make money in anything? You know, I mean, could you be out of that business in 5 minutes and go do something else? If that's really it, then the customer's going to feel that, right? Your current customer's going to feel it. If your employees, you know, if you don't care for them, they're going to feel it, you know. So it has to be a multi-threaded thing. Anyway, that's getting on to my passion project.
That's all right. Well, I think
passion leaks creeping in.
I mean, well, that's good. I think this is. I've enjoyed this because it's been a very honest conversation, which I think is what works. But I think one of the things I definitely take away is that there's this there is this gap that I know exists, and I sort of knew before we started, which is just like, how do you like get this across to people? How do you connect in some sort of meaningful way? I think one of the things that really resonates with me that you said earlier, Gabe, and I wasn't texting somebody, I was making a note for myself, but I was like, it is this concept of trust and trust being earned over time, and just finding those, like, what's a littler way in that I can prove to you that this is real? Because I get frustrated with all the bullshit stuff as well, like, as we always talk about, it's like there's so much nonsense bullshit, like there's got to be just some smaller ways that I can show you how useful this is, and we can just build that over time into the bigger stuff, because it's too much for me to come in and say, guys, we're just going to rebuild your organization. It's not going to work. No one's at that point.
Yeah, I have an idea about this. This is the perfect opportunity.
It sounds like a great ending, like drop mic moment.
Hopefully, yeah. So what we do holistically is too much for us to communicate to any owner at any given time, and even for them to comprehend, to implement into their business. Yep. So we had to learn this the hard way, and now that we're getting better at this, we're more effective. We had to learn to go, don't worry about all that other stuff. Let's just first look at your role stack. Oh, you got too many. Do you want them all? No. Okay, well, you got to find a way to hand them over. Okay. Now, let's talk about what you want. Let's just figure that out. Let's do 3 or 4 sessions together and get you clear on your stack of roles and what you want. And when you get to there, you have so many answers that help you make the next decision. Oh, shit, yeah, succession thinking is for me. I want to put this in my business because I know it's going to give me what I want. You didn't have to make that decision back then. I think it's a little bit the same with AI.
I think it's a lot the same.
So here's the practical thing that's come up for me quite early in our conversation is the amalgamation of succession thinking's role clarity and the other stuff's AI wisdom, right? I think role clarity is a real opportunity to implement AI in small, meaningful steps that can build trust over time. You think about a role has a set of accountabilities, so it's got to do a couple of things. It's got some decision rights, so it gets to make calls or perform things without asking for permission. It needs certain skills to do that well and certain attributes to be successful in that role. Now, you have the ability to code that in to a small AI agent with so much detail and guardrails that it can almost not do it wrong. And if you start thinking about AI as a capability that can perform a role, and you give that AI a role card, you are doing X. You are accountable for do these things, do it like this, speak like this, or communicate like this, behave like this. Now just go do it, and just small things, and just let it perform its role, and you're going to see, holy shit, it's doing this role really good actually. AI keeps doing the role really good. I'm starting to trust this now. Okay, what's the next role I can hand over?
Well, you know what?
I just want to finish one point. what I see a real opportunity for SMEs here is not to go, oh, sweet ass, I get to give roles to AI so I can get rid of my people. On the contrary, I see the opportunity you can keep all your people, but all of a sudden have many more roles being performed better, which is back to my point right at the beginning, where your revenue could go up significantly, your overheads stay the same, and all of a sudden you're building beautiful profit margin. You guys spoke about this concept early on in your podcast, I think episode 2 or 3, and I forget what you called it.
Probably the value trap one.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Isn't there an opportunity here? Don't know if it's the appropriate thing for the podcast, but you can that you could be a type of partner. See, we built the technology, so when we talk about succession thinking, any adapt customer would deploying all this logic in a technology, so you've got data, right? So if you built interoperability off our platform as a easier entry point, you could well, what are we up to now, Gabe? Is number of businesses that are on the platform?
Oh, nearly 150.
Yeah, so it's okay. So some of those are only tiny and they're just getting going, but you see the idea. That could be your entry point, because one, there is a decision maker. So I was just thinking about what function leader across our businesses, because function leaders, the sum of function leaders are the organizational leadership team.
Yeah.
So what function leaders are the sort of people that would have the accountability for investigating, bringing it in? And it's probably the function leader of org design, or there's different ways or places this could be. Often that is still one of the owners, right? But my point is that if you did that, you could actually build some pretty interesting interoperability, and then you could be a partner that actually takes it to our community as an entry point, because there is a means by which to engage. Anyway, that's just an idea.
I think that makes sense.
I like it.
We can build that.
But I'll leave that with Gabe. I mean, it's just an idea.
That's good. So it goes on your roll card of do it.
But that's an interesting point about that's part of the mindset shift, isn't it? Because a lot of people just go, "Oh, AI is here to replace me," and what you're describing is no, AI is actually here to usher in this new wave of human flourishing.
Imagine this world, right? I am a small business owner with 10 employees.
Yeah.
And we make $1.5 million a year, and we're virtually break even, right? Now I work 50 hours a week. Imagine if in 12 months from now, I'm still making $1.5 million a year. I've still got my 10 employees, but we're all working 20 hours a week.
Yeah. Exactly.
All of a sudden, you got discretionary time, you got profit.
Yeah.
And you're far more likely to be happy in that scenario, because you get to do a lot of the other things you don't have time for.
Yeah.
If you have the mindset to start thinking about how do I achieve that, I think AI is a real great vessel to do that. But they will need experienced people like you guys who actually know how to execute, how to pull it off. We know how to build ownership teams. We know how to build leadership teams. We know how to build good strategies and culture systems. And so we can show people that you guys know how to build incredible AI capability. And business owners need them. SME owners need them for sure.
All right, let's build that customer journey then. That sounds good. That's the good stuff.